come up. Yes, man. With a distinguished panel today. Yeah? We're going to talk about the economy, right? The state of the economy, the SSL, you know, the damage and everything, you know, with the economy. So right now, we got Ralston Hyman live right here in this panel. We have also, you know, Rattigan.
Yes, sir, yes.
Rattigan, you know, yes, man.
Rebel himself, rebel himself.
And we have the rebel, with the cars, rebel. How you
Yes.
doing, sir?
Well, I'm up on top of the world, my brother. Big up yourself, fireman.
How you doing, fireman?
Bless up, bless up, bless up, bless up.
All right, so we will wait on Ralston, make him come in, because this is one hot, you know, because we want to know the state of the economy. After we get the Shakanor from SSL and the whole of lies and all kind of things, and we want to know how we dollar value in a Jamaica and what to do for the economy in there, you know? You understand?
Indeed, indeed.
Yes, yes. You see me, I say, we want to know what to do for the economy and everything like that. Yeah? You want to say something about that, Conrad, me when Ralston are coming in?
All right. The truth with it is that the Jamaican economy, while we hear from the government time and time again as to how well we're doing, the jury is out on that. And I'm sure that Ralston Hyman will be the first to tell you that, listen, this whole argument about growth, it's a fallacy, because we are still not yet back where we were in 2019. So we are in recovery mode as we speak, because first thing to begin with, we have to get back pre-pandemic, which was 2019, and then thereafter we build. And one of the things that I also want to put forward with, we are not seeing where any new production, you know, real production is being promoted in Jamaica in order to create new industries so that we can broaden or enlarge the pie so our people can enjoy a better standard of living. And that is why, as my good friend Rattigan will also enumerate as well, that we have 60% of the Jamaican population who lives on $9,000 per week. That is the minimum wage. And we have another 11% or so who are actually on below the poverty line. Therefore, it shows you where we have a bang belly situation or a top heavy situation. We have a few people at the top who are living well, can drive into any car mart and come out with a Benz or whatever brand vehicle, you know, pay for it cash and live the life and so on, while the majority of our people who are there to till the soil, so to speak, they can hardly find food to eat. That is the present scenario that's facing Jamaica. And that is why you find, like today, the taxi operators and others are so livid, because what they're seeing is the government of Jamaica continue to put on the pressure, pile on the pressure, as it were. You know, a situation where it is said if a person's car is smoking, and remember now, you're talking about a poor man who will have a little smoke in his car. He will be asked now to pay $150,000. And all of those sorts of things. Right now you're driving and you don't even know where to park, because you have to be very careful how close you are to a bus stop. And so many things that are happening, and all of that impacting the economy. So again, you hear the talk about the unemployment rate that is so low. But at the same time, what are we having? We're having less people.
Hold on, Cameron. Hold on. Ralston?
Yeah, man.
All right. You're not getting to logging in?
Yeah, I logged in. I hear you.
Yeah, but we don't see it come up. You know, we don't see it come up.
Not me, I said that one now because I'm logging in and I hear everybody and I see everybody.
Just
I'm
see,
blessing myself.
you can log out
Yeah,
back
man, I see and I hear now.
yeah, because we had search here there and we don't see you. So you can log out back and log in again. Because
All right, cool.
yeah, man, do that right away. Yeah, man. All right, cool.
Yeah, man.
I think what happened with maybe he hasn't touched the thing that bring you up on the video.
Yeah, you have to touch that to bring it up here. Yes, yes.
Maybe that guy was there, but
yes.
Yeah, man. So those are some other things, and I'm sure that you know, Ralston will be able to add much more value on it. It's all about lip service. We hear the government talk about, for example, a low-hanging fruit. I talked about some time ago the castor bean industry, which is a big industry. Demand is there, and from all the showers made Minister of Agriculture, he talked about it and said they will be putting in acreage upon acreage of castor bean. Today, the only castor bean we have in Jamaica are those that grow wild. And you know castor bean in Jamaica, Wayne and Lonesome, the same thing we call castor oil, right? Our international listeners know it as castor bean. There's a big industry for that. So all those things are things that, you know, low-hanging fruit that we can look at to deal with it. The minister also talk about, you know, how much money they collect in terms of over-collecting on the taxes. But those money is being hoarded. We're seeing where the debt is being overpaid by a great amount. And Raleigh again have those numbers at his fingertips, so he will be able to enumerate and share with us as we go along. Is he back in?
Raleigh, people we have to introduce Ralston Hyman, you know, because he's one of the most colorful. Ralston.
You understand what I'm going?
All right, so you touch the thing there. You sign in. You can see us, right?
Yeah, man. I hear all I want to see one.
Yes, see we so one. Let me not touch.
No.
You use a YouTube. You sign into a YouTube and touch something and it carry you up.
Maybe what you can do, and since he's hearing well, you know, just work with it.
I'm going to go and work with it. So Ralston, I could just ask you this, right? With the SSL saga, what kind of damage that can have? What kind of effect on the economy? The first thing I ask you.
Well, I mean, if the situation is not contained by improving confidence, then it can have a deleterious or serious impact on the economy. Here's why. In Jamaica, we run what we call large trade deficit. That's the difference between merchandise imports and merchandise exports. For the first 9 months of last year, that deficit was running at $4.557 billion. Right? That's the difference between what we import in physical goods as well as what we export in physical goods. So we depend on the money from remittances, foreign direct investment flows, and from multilateral agencies and private investors to close that gap. Now, if we do not improve confidence in the system and investors do not have confidence in the system, then these flows will fall below levels that are necessary to close that trade gap. And if we can't close the trade gap, it means the government has to do what they have been doing since this thing broke, to intervene in the foreign exchange market with large sums of money, running down the net international reserve, and those things will create pressure on the dollar. So we saw the dollar traded at 155 last week after the governor intervened with 110 million since the start of this year. So that is why we have to significantly improve confidence, because if the dollar continues to run, it means that everything will unravel in terms of the inflation target. Inflation is down 9.4%. They want to get it down to between 4 and 6%. And if the dollar continues to move in that direction, then we lose the war and inflation will accelerate. People will get poorer, and then you have more problems, more social problems, more criminality, and all of those things. It's very important that we improve confidence in the financial system if we are going to be able to continue to get those loans from remittances and all of those things.
Hold on a minute, Ralston. Can you turn? You have a fan on? It's loud.
Okay.
Yes, good. All right,
That's good.
Continue, Ralston.
Yeah, man. So we see the remittance flows, they are already shrinking. They are down by 2% for the first 11 months of last year. Principally because we see the economy in the US slowing down. It is going to slow down more because where they are right now, inflation is 6.5%, and the jobs market is still strong. 517,000 new jobs were created in January. So it means that the Federal Reserve Board, the American Central Bank, will have to continue to increase interest rates. Right now, they are between 4.5 and 4.75% per annum. They'll have to do at least 3 more 25 basis points between 5.25 and 5.5% per annum. More people have to lose jobs, and those things will impact on the remittance flow. So we have to do everything that is necessary to maintain the confidence of investors, to maintain the confidence of people like you, the members of the diaspora, as well as to maintain the confidence of the multilateral agencies, principally IMF, IDB, and the World Bank. So if we do not deal with this problem in an appropriate way, it could cause significant damage to the Jamaican economy, more criminality, more social dislocation, more poverty.
Good. Raleigh, Wayne, if I may put a question into Raleigh.
Yes.
Raleigh, you mentioned the impact with the dollar. Share with the listening audience, and as Wayne was trying to say earlier, that Ralston is one of the ace financial commentator, not just in Jamaica, but in the Caribbean, well respected. And of course, he's the host of the popular economic program and Power 106 as well, if I may just put that in. So, Mr. Hyman, in terms of the dollar going down by each percentage slip on the dollar, how much does that cost the Jamaican people in terms of our debt ratio?
Well, for every 1% dip in the value of the dollar, it costs us $10 billion more to service the debt.
10 was, Raleigh?
10 million.
$10 billion more. And if we have to use more money to service the debt, it means that we have less to spend on infrastructure, less to spend on social intervention, and we see all those things have a negative impact on investment and growth and criminality. So we have to maintain stability in the exchange rate, and the flows from overseas are important in order to maintain that stability, because we always overspend in Jamaica.
Overspend. All right, so Rattigan, you want to ask a question?
Yeah. Ralston, good evening, sir. Rattigan here.
Yeah, man, good evening.
Yeah. No, when I look at the monies coming into Jamaica, I see several our monies being collected by the government. I see several sources. It's a Diaspora, the remittances, I think a year ago, not last year, the year before, was almost I think it was $3.8 billion US dollars. Then tourism brings in
$1.5 billion COVID-19, yeah.
Yeah, and tourism brings in $2.something billion. Then you have taxes and fines, you have your exports, you have your investments, and then of course you have your donor agencies and donor countries. Now, the question I'd like to ask of you is this: you talk about confidence. At what point do you think that the donor agencies, let's focus on them for now, donor agencies and countries, at what point do you think that they would lose confidence in Jamaica and Jamaica could possibly slip into a recession?
Well, I mean, whether they lose confidence in us or not, there's this great possibility of us slipping into a recession once the US and the global economy goes into recession. So we might end up in a recession whether or not the multilateral agencies lose confidence in us. But the fact of the matter is, right now, agencies like the International Monetary Fund, the people at the World Bank and the IDB, they still have a whole lot of confidence in Jamaica. But this particular thing with SSL, if it is not dealt with properly, it could shake their confidence in Jamaica and to how the economy is managed. And that is why it's important that we get international assistance, not only from the FBI, but also from those agencies in terms of strengthening the regulations in relation to how the financial sector in Jamaica operates. So we must hold the government accountable in order to get assistance from those agencies if we're going to restore confidence. It's important that they do it rather than just talk.
Okay.
Let me ask another question.
Yes.
If you don't mind. I've always maintained, Ralston, that Jamaica, I specifically make this or levy this accusation at the Ministry of National Security that Jamaica is by and large a society that responds, right? They don't plan ahead. It's not proactive. It's not predictive. It's reactive. And that's clear for me as a law enforcement professional when I look at how they address crime issues in Jamaica. Something has to happen and then they respond. Now, could this have been seen, this SSL scandal, based on your experience? Could this have been seen and could steps have been taken to proactively present this? And when I said this, I'm not talking specifically about SSL. I'm talking about the financial sector, because it's not just SSL that's undergoing, this scandal. But is there something? Could you have envisioned something like this happening? And what would you have done, or what could you have done to prevent this?
Well, I mean, the SSL has been under the microscope from 2009. So different administration, different executive directors at the FSC had the opportunity to fix this problem a long time ago. So this is not something that is only could be foreseen. This is a problem that has been in the face of everybody for a long time ago. The question that we want to ask is, what is it so about SSL that they have been able to go around the regulators for almost 14 years? Because if you look at the various report, every report that comes out about SSL is similar. The same breaches. They have breached almost every regulation in the Securities Act. Yet this is now the first time that we're taking strong action against them. So that's what we want to know. What is it about SSL that from 2009 until 2023, they have been consistently violating the Securities Act and still operating until January of this year?
So, Ralston, I noticed in 2008, 2009, it does show, because them like cover up a lot of things, that them draw nearly $2 million, 200 million, and fund around 3 companies. 3, right? Mark Crosby was the
Mark
Crosby. Yeah. He was the man in charge there. And then one of those company, I said, them same one of the shareholder. What is about these things? Why no government never act? Why? I don't even understand this.
Those are clear breaches of the regulations, not only in relation to the companies, in relation to contract notes, in relation to the establishment of committees, in relation to calling meetings. They violated almost every single act in the Securities Act. Yet they were allowed to remain open, say, at 2009, 2013, 2016, 2017, 2019, 2020, the same breaches. That's why we want to know what is so powerful and so important about this company, that they can just violate the Securities Act that will and still remain open.
Raleigh, you're going out with another one, Rattigan, before I come in?
No, go ahead.
Raleigh, let me ask you two questions I have here. There is a term in economics that we call jawboning. Explain that term for me, first of all, what that means.
Well, it means that the regulators, the authorities talk to the market in order to talk up the market. So people like Jerome Powell, when they have their meetings after the Fed completes its meeting at 2:15 p.m., he would go and talk to the market and give them signals as to where the Fed is going. Yeah.
Great. All right. That said, do you believe that the government, and especially its point man, the Minister of Finance, is doing the requisite jawboning that is needed in order to build confidence in the financial sector? In terms of our diaspora people who were here, they're jetting into Jamaica to remove their funds. And the second part of the question, we saw where the minister have moved to, change the regulatory apparatus of FSC. Was that necessary? And finally, is the FSC as it is basically has the necessary regulatory power that could basically act in an appropriate way, that we could have seen some corrective measures at SSL before now?
Well, the first question, I don't believe that enough work is being done to convince the diaspora. I believe that the people in the diaspora should insist that they get a seat on the FSC's board as well as on the BOJ's board, because their contribution to the economy is 20% of the economy. They contribute more than tourism, more than foreign investors, more than exports. So their contributions are extremely important. So I believe that coming from the diaspora, they should be saying to the Minister of Government that we would love a seat on the FSC's board, on the Bank of Jamaica's board, because they have the expertise in diaspora more than many of the people that are sitting on those boards. And their money is extreme. Without their money, the economy will collapse. So that's why I don't think they are doing enough in that regard. Now, the FSC, just for the benefit of our listeners, was established by the former Finance Minister, Dr. Omar David, after the financial sector crisis in the 1990s. The FSC has all the powers at its disposal in order to carry out the actions that they need to. So the letters from the executive director of the FSC shouldn't be seeking the permission of any minister to do what they want to do. They should be saying to the minister, this is what is happening at SSL and this is what we are going to do, because they have all the power to do what they need to do.
So tell me something. In 2016, and I think before, them did plan to withdraw the license, suspend the license. Why them never go through with that?
That's the point. Those are some of the questions that we need to come up with in the investigation, because they got the same letter in 2009 and that stretched down until 2021. So why the FSC continues to send those letters to SSL that if you do not comply, we are going to suspend your license, but they continue to allow them to operate? Those are some of the mysteries that we like to unravel.
Let me ask you a question, Ralston. Yeah. When were these letters sent? You said one was sent 2009?
2009, 2013, 2016, 2017, 2019, 2020.
Okay, now 2020. Okay.
It covers both administrations.
Okay. Now here's a question I want to ask. Is it possible that these letters were sent to SSL, but the investigation or the assessment done on SSL was not reported to the Minister of Finance?
Well, the Minister of Finance under the previous administration, Dr. Peter Phillips, said he got his letter. So we'd like to know, why is it that the current minister didn't get the letter, but Dr. Phillips said he got his letter?
So hold on. But the Minister of Finance now, Nigel Clark, him came out back and said no, him letter did in his cabinet. I can't even understand that. Because me want to ask, a thing like this to have people money, right? And it can collapse an economy. It will know right from when a letter send the Minister of Finance check out all these things, or it reach in a cabinet. That time have to take 5 years or 4 years to search and find it. We can't even understand that.
Well, that's the point I'm making. So Dr. Phillips said he got his letter in 2013. That means if Dr. Clark never got his letter, it means that Dr. Phillips was operating a more efficient finance ministry than Dr. Clark, because if a letter comes to the Minister of Finance and the minister says he didn't know about it until 3 years after, it means that somebody in the ministry must be fired. Now, Dr. Clark hasn't fired anybody, so it means that we must look at what he said in relation to the letter with a grain of salt. The fact that he said that nobody in the ministry could find the letter, but him could find it. It tells you a story itself. There's either the ministry is a clown show or he's not being straight with the Jamaican public. And then again, remember, Everton McFarlane was a former senior economist at the Ministry of Finance and acting financial secretary. If he's going to send a letter to the Ministry of Finance, he's going to either send it or he's going to send them to both the minister and the financial secretary. Remember, he also said an electronic copy. If he's going to send an electronic copy, he's going to send it straight to the minister or the financial secretary. So
Now
is
here,
that minister is not being straight, or the Ministry of Finance has turned a clown show?
now continuing with the clown show theme. How is it possible that he found this letter in 2020, but he doesn't mention anything about the letters that he should have received in 2016, 2017, 2019? Is that possible?
Good point. That's the point I'm making. So he's not being straight, or the ministry is a clown show. And I'm saying to you that Everton McFarlane knows that ministry inside out, because he was a former senior economist and acting financial secretary. He left the Ministry of Finance to go to the FSC.
All right.
So they're not being straight with us insofar as that is concerned.
May I come in, Wayne?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Hyman, the former or the outgoing FSC director, one of the reasons why he resigned or was fired, right? The jury is out and whatever. People are saying he was fired. Some are saying that he resigned. The fact that he lost his job and the gravamen of him losing the job was that there was no communique to the ministry. Now that we identify that indeed he did his job in terms of sending that letter and correspond with the minister, you believe that this is wrongful dismissal, and what should now happen? Because the minister certainly is the one who would have.
No, but I mean, he did a part of his job, because the letter that he sent to the minister,
yes,
would have been saying that this is what is happening at SSL, and as a result, we have done this at the FSC, not to seek the minister's permission. So he never did the most important part of his job, because he had all the powers in the Securities Act to go and do what they did now, sending a temporary manager or close down SSL.
So make a ask him something. Hold on, Cameron. Make a ask him something. Make a just ask him something. It could be because the Prime Minister himself, because remember it moved over different administration, because the Prime Minister himself had an open account from 2008 and come and tell us that him close it down 2021. That's why this man never act. It could be that. And the next thing we want to find out, why is it that them pump taxpayers' money? 5 government agencies, you invest money there, including the housing trust when I need money, because we have surplus in the housing trust.
All right, let me explain that to you.
Yes.
The first thing, when you take a job like FSC or you head a public sector board, right? You have to be determined to buck the authorities. So you must use the powers that the legislation gives you, and you must not bow to political pressure. So if we made the assumption that Everton never did what he was supposed to do because of political pressure, then he deserves what he got.
Are we playing politics? In playing politics or something?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you have to be prepared to resign, but you have to stand up for principles. So if you're not prepared to resign, then don't take those jobs, because you're going to end up being the fall guy, like what is happening to you now.
No, well, when did Everton McFarlane, when did he get this job?
In 2018.
Okay, so in 2008, so before he got this job, there were 4 letters sent out, right? 2009, 2013, 2016, 2017. Yet SSL was not closed, and they didn't put a monitor there, right? So
they had a monitor there, and SSL ran the monitor. All of that again should make them close on the place.
All right, but so that's the point I'm trying to make, that it's not just Everton's inability to do his job.
All the executive directors, from 2009. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
So you had Johnny Soles, you had Ron Barnett, all of those people, they had to deal with the same problem.
All right, so we come back. Make we come back. Hold on. Make we just come back to the Prime Minister though, because him come out and make the speech and make it sound away, and then him take more like a week after, you know, if he tell the whole Jamaica and the world and the people in the diaspora that he himself did have an account with SSL from 2008 and him close it 2021. That's 14 months before everybody else money or who for money missing and gone under. Him don't lose a cent. And then him leave the 5 ministry money there in our pandemic. How we look on that?
All right.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. SSL is a securities broker. Just like you have Mayberry Investments Limited.
Yes.
Just like you have NCB Capital Markets. Right?
Yes.
So
Sagicor.
They use those people to buy stocks for them in other companies. So it's not that the government invests money, NHT invests money in SSL. NHT gave SSL money to buy shares in other companies. So that money is safe because those search certificates, they're at the Jamaica Central Security Depository at the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So those agencies lost no money. They never invested any money in SSL. What they did was to use SSL as a broker to buy stocks in other companies.
Which was the same thing that Usain Bolt did, and he lost his money.
Yeah, well, he was an investor. Yeah.
Oh, he was an investor.
Yeah, but so yeah, this wealth manager managing his money at SSL. The government agencies gave SSL money to buy shares for them in other companies.
But make I ask you something though. With a company like NHT who have surplus, because you remember the government went to NHT before and used money top up the budget. Why you would use money from there? Because it show up SSL, it good for SSL anyway. If you buy stocks or do what and what. Because we have money. It make it own money in national housing trust. Why them that use it?
They still want to make money. So rather have the money and still want to look on it to try to turn the money. Now, if you come to the point now where you do due diligence, I wouldn't use SSL as my broker. Yeah, so maybe they should have exercised a little more prudence in that, because what they're doing is legitimize a company that is going around the law. So I would not use SSL as a broker. Yeah.
Raleigh, you finished with in terms of the timeline and the purchasing, the housing trust that Wayne just talked about and the other government agency. Do you have the timeline on those entities when they invested in the SSL or buy stock, use the SSL as a broker? They didn't give us that. That could be a little bit interesting, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, going back to as far as 2009, I mean, you know, if you do due diligence, then it has to say that SSL is not a good place to use as a broker.
But
absolutely, and that's why I was saying that the timeline would be important, because they knew that.
But in 2008, we see that SSL they didn't have some money problems same way, and 2009 them get the same warning and everything. So why you not investing in them then? Why the government that take out these things are put their money? So make we invest in SSL to do that or buy.
That's the point I'm making. I mean, the decision to use them as a broker, given that background and given the constant violation, that was not a good decision to use them as a broker. So we need to find out why they use them as a broker when there were other brokers who are above board. Yeah.
So
that's part of the investigation. So.
Yes. So who was the finance minister in 2008, 2009, 10, 11?
Oh, the Fitzgerald
Shaw.
Okay. And tell me something now. I think like this now, with people losing confidence in brokers like this. And if people make a run, like people like us in the diaspora, it would be detrimental to Jamaica, right?
So we can't
finance.
Afford that.
Huh?
Yeah, so we can't afford that.
So why the government don't fix up the thing and address the thing the right way?
Well, they say that they're trying to fix up the thing, so that is why they're telling you that why they're changing the regulations, strengthening the regulations, strengthening internal audit process. stiffer penalties for those who violate. Those are some things that they are saying to do in order to improve the confidence level, because we cannot afford that.
But Raleigh, you said earlier that the jawboning is not enough. What else do you think they need to do at this time? What should the Minister of Finance be saying to the market?
Yeah, well, I personally believe that Minister Clark should, because he's not only talking, I have a town hall meeting with members of the diaspora, and I say to them that he missed that opportunity, because he should have appointed a member of the diaspora on the FNC board. They could be also on the board of the BOJ, given the amount of money that they send back to the country. So if it was me, I'd give them board seats on BOJ and FSC, because they have a whole lot of experience in financial sector crisis, given what happened in 2008 in the US and those places. So that would be a welcome addition. And that would improve confidence.
Raleigh, quickly before Ratty come, quickly before Ratty come in, you're a watcher of these things. You watch these things globally, you know, from especially your eyes are on the two largest economy that is described as the locomotive of the world economy, the US, China, and elsewhere. You know, you watch these things based on the movement, what happened, transpired under Minister Clark. Do you believe that is at the point where we should be asking for him to step aside, or we're not at that threshold as yet?
Well, if he was in a jurisdiction like the US and Europe, he'd be on a whole lot of fire. Tell you the truth. Tell you the truth. But to everything in Jamaica is political, yeah, and sentimental, then those things continue. But if he was in Janet Yelling's position, then he would be on a whole lot of fire. His position would have become untenable.
Okay, thanks.
Ratty?
Yeah, Ralston, I want to throw some things to you and just tell me if they're factual. And I just need you. I just want you to comment on at the end of it. In 2008, there's a financial crisis, a global financial crisis. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Okay, and that was the time that the Prime Minister invested in SSL. Am I correct on that too? Okay.
Yeah, so based on his own merits, yes.
Right, and so he left his money there in that account for it to be, I don't know, if he was purchasing, if he gave them permission to purchase stocks for him, or if it was an investment in SSL itself. Which one was it? Was it an investment in SSL, or was it like similar to what the government agencies did?
He hasn't clearly defined that, so that is also what he needs to tell us. You know, what was it? Was it that you gave them money to invest, or was it that you used them as broker? He hasn't clearly outlined that yet.
Okay.
So, well, I'm going to let Ratty finish too. But as a Prime Minister, you think don't the nation deserve to know the amount of money the Prime Minister invests in 2000? Back then he was the Education Minister. The amount of money invest in SSL in 2008.
Well, if he wanted to be fully transparent and to curb the speculation that he's talking about, then yes, he should.
Finish, Ratty.
That would help to improve confidence and curb the speculation that he says that people are putting out on social media about him. Yeah.
All right. So he invested in 2008, and I think it's safe to assume that he was probably, if he was getting statements, that the statements were showing that he was making money on whatever his deposits, because we don't know if he invested with them or he gave it to them to be a broker, right?
Yeah. So, but whatever it is supposed to get a statement, yeah.
Right. So he was getting statements, and then we have this letter in 2020 that surfaced, where Everton McFarlane sent it to Minister Clark by email and also by bearer, and then in 2021. We have the Prime Minister just closing the account. Now, let's assume that he was making money on all of this, because I don't think there was a financial crisis the likes of 2008. I don't think that financial crisis, I don't think we saw anything like that in 2021.
No.
So let me ask you this. Based on your experience, your knowledge, is it suspicious that he would invest in 2008 when there was a financial crisis? And some people say that's a good time to invest or to make a deposit. And then suddenly he closed the account in 2021. He didn't take some of the money out He closed it completely. What does that signal to you, if anything?
Well, that is a question that has to be part of the investigation, because I'm sure that he never just got up off his bed in the morning and said, boy, I'm going to close my account. This must be something why he closed his account. So he also needs to explain that to the public if they want to improve confidence.
They can put something to that.
One quick question, one follow-up question.
Yes.
What was the investment market like on the day that the Prime Minister closed the account?
Well, nothing is wrong with the investment environment. Before this whole thing broke, everything was steady and stable in the investment environment.
And the next thing again, though, when they closed the account, it was in the time of the pandemic when every other Jamaican have to stay at home, church lockdown and everything. But the Prime Minister have time, because we couldn't come out. You know, people couldn't come out outside, police, mass and everything. People scared. But him have time and find time in 2021 to close him account.
Yeah, we gave them an electronic instruction.
Okay.
In 2021, when people are thinking about, you know, life and him are thinking about money. You know, you have to ask the question. Eh? When people are thinking about to survive. Eh?
I love that word. I love that. People are thinking about life.
Yes, man.
Man in the wilderness, boy, you dig deep.
No, man, that's
Raleigh, if I ever hear weird, I'll follow, because this whole thing, Mr. Hyman, how does it impinge on the question that's thrown around all over now with the Prime Minister integrity or the Prime Minister's filing being unable to clear or to certify by the Integrity Commission? How you intertwine all of what is happening here with this, you know, undue delay in certifying that the Prime Minister returned?
Yeah. Well,
and does it have any impact on the... Sorry, Ralston, go ahead.
Yeah, well, people like Dr. Kanye Thompson and Professor Trevor Monroe, they'll tell you that it is sending the wrong signal to the public, the lack of moral leadership at the top. And they explain that some of the reasons that we have this high level of corruption in the country, because no example is being set from the top. Yeah. And again, in apart from Trump, in a developed jurisdiction, those things would have been untenable. I mean, Trump is an aberration.
So Raleigh, do you believe if the country, with this kind of leadership, if it continues, it will end up like Sri Lanka?
Well, not Sri Lanka, but more like Haiti.
Like Haiti, good.
Yeah, man.
Yes, like Haiti.
Because that's chaos and disorder. Yeah.
Okay. Ratty?
Yeah. You know, the investigator in me is saying, I would like to know when the Prime Minister withdrew or closed his account in 2021, what did he do with that money? Did he turn around and reinvested it in another company, or where did that money go? And then
those are some of the questions that the FBI investigators will have to ask, because the domestic investigators, they are not going to ask the Prime Minister those questions, but those are relevant. That is why we want external people to be involved.
Let me just ask you a follow-up question. Given your position in the financial sphere, what keeps you up at night? No.
What keeps me up at night? That we have a significant fallout in remittance flow, and the government has to draw down more on the reserves, and dollars start to behave in a very bad way. Inflation accelerates, interest rates go up, more people lose their job, and more poverty and criminality in the street.
Okay, so you're telling me now that the government depends on us.
Of course.
To pop up
that is why I'm telling you.
Yes.
You contribute 20% of the economy. You contribute more than tourism. you contribute more than the foreign direct investors, which they give all of these concessions, cheap labor, cheap everything, 10-year tax break. Your contribution is much more than everybody else, and that is why you must have a greater say in how the economy is run, particularly in those agencies that are there to safeguard money.
That means if our remittance, if we decide not to send money for a month or two or even 6 months, Jamaica
We've been significant economic. We've been significant economic too.
Yeah, all right.
May I go in?
Yes.
Raleigh, you know, based on our work, we never miss an opportunity. Wayne as well, Ratty, you will never miss an opportunity to ask a question. And you said something just now that's not lost on me at all. Based on what you enumerate, and you keep on saying that is what the FBI would have to do now, are you implying that the Prime Minister and maybe by extension the Minister of Finance would be persons of interest, or certainly would have a few questions to answer in this investigation?
But you couldn't investigate the crisis without talking to those people. They are key players.
Thank you very much, sir.
It would be an investigation would be a mockery if you never talk to those players.
Raleigh, we have Ratty, we have been preaching. we have been preaching.
Of course. So we want the people, we want all of us in the diaspora, get it clear. We are the backbone who holding up Jamaica. Although them try to diss us and make it seem like we're not doing anything. You understand? Yeah. But we are the one really pumping in the money to show up Jamaica, show up the dollar. Because without us...
You are the biggest source of foreign exchange.
Okay, good.
By far.
Only you know. But and next thing, so why the government not do something to work with us even more? Them always are tell about foreign investors, but them count us out. But them depend on the remittance and depend on our money to show up the country and keep the country running.
That is why you have to keep up the pressure, because all those foreign investors that we give all of these concessions, the money that you send is 10 times the money that we are getting from them. Yeah? The money that you send is 135 times the money that we get from tourism. 135% of tourism flows. So when you hear them talk about tourism and this, when we get 4 million visitors and get $4 million, that's only $1.6 billion. The money that you spend in COVID-19 was $3.5 billion for the first 11 months of last year. You sent $3.1 billion. So remittances are the largest source of foreign exchange. That is how we pay for the goods that we import. The 1.8 billion for the oil bill, the 1.7 billion for raw materials, the 1.4 billion for food and consumer goods. It's the remittance money that pay for them.
So you're telling me now that all these people in the PSOJ, private sector, all them do is more like an ICI then?
Yeah, man. And those are margin gatherers, man. Those are margin gatherers, you know. All them do are import and gather margins and you pay the bill. That's the point I'm making. You are the ones who pay the bill for Jamaica.
So without us, the PSOJ suffer also.
The whole economy Jamaica would have been a serious trouble, yeah, man.
Okay, good.
Every year I send back more than $3 billion, US dollar. Yeah? Yeah. If you send back the money for clothes, then they would have to borrow more money and the dollar would have slide more, I would have more debt to carry. And the people in our country couldn't pay for them furniture, them couldn't send them to school, them couldn't add to them house, them couldn't pay JPS because of that the remittance money though.
Good. So tell me something, what's the reserve look like now? A Bank of Jamaica?
Well, I have 3.7 billion, them gone 110 million outside since the year start.
Them gone 110 million, okay. So we send even more than what them having a reserve the other day. 3.7 them have.
During COVID-19, they're sending almost the same amount.
You see that?
So that's the economy doing COVID-19, the remittance money.
Can you imagine? Ratty?
Without trying to or attempting to slander anybody. Ralston, you've looked at the situation from before it started to where we are now. What's your take on this whole scenario? What's your opinion on what happened? And if you could look into your crystal ball, where do you see this going?
Well, I believe that the problem has to do with politics and the weaknesses of the various boards and executive directors of the FSC, because they are appointed by politicians too. Yeah, so I believe that is the scenario. The executive directors and the chairperson were very weak because they never have a consult a minister to do what they have to do. Right? So if you take the work the way you're supposed to do, or don't take the work. Simple. Because you'll end up just like how Everton end up. If him did doing job, he would end up that way. Yeah? So them can always blame and say, oh, he never have to come to we to do what he needs to do. He could just do what he needs to do because the law gave him the force to do what he needs to do. Now,
Good.
where this is going to end up, I do not believe that we are going to have a thorough investigation and anybody is going to go to where they're supposed to go unless our foreign partners play an important role. Because I can tell you, I was financial editor of a newspaper named the Sunday Record and the Jamaica Herald during the financial sector crisis of the 1990s. And it cost us $140 billion. And Omar Davis never get to send a body up with.
Because tell me something, tell me something, them defy court orders, right? Including you Cross Creek and Paul Chin Young.
Yeah, them do all kind of thing on runway. You get the follow message here?
Okay.
And there is more than a passing relationship between the Eagle Group, which cost Jamaica $14.7 billion, and the people who are running SSL.
So tell me something. More you clear something for me. So them have a notion where them run out with and said no, Omar Davis mashed them up with FinSac. We just want you to just explain what was FinSac or what Eagle Group do to Jamaicans and why it prudent or why it was right for the government to step in because they couldn't make them feel and give them back something. You can explain that for me?
All right. Simple. All my people are a bit mixed up. In 1991, we liberalized the foreign exchange market. Prior to that, we used to have exchange control, so they couldn't left the country with more than X amount of money. The man in my papier soldier said, free enterprise and watch Jamaica grow. So nobody put no limits on nobody with no foreign exchange. Now tell me, say, we can't left with more than $20 or $100. Just maybe left with my money and then bring it back once the thing free. You follow me? At that time, the exchange rate was 7 to 1 because we artificially held the exchange rate at 550 to 1 prior to that, right? We were running massive trade deficits. Trade deficit at that time was like 550 million US because we import pulp, we import satellite dish and all of them something there, we import cornflakes and all kind of things, right? Then what happened is that after the liberalization, the dollar dropped to 21 to the US one. Them times that we never have the appropriate banking relationship in terms of regulations. We never have the FSC, we never have the Deposit Insurance Corporation. Any man could just form a bank. So we have enough banks and enough building societies and all of them things. There was no regulation to tame them. All right. One things when the bank of them do at that time now, them start suffer from vanity. So every man will have a complex. So what them do now is that them take the people their money, depositors' money, offer them high interest rates, and then them take the people their money in a concrete and steel. So that's how you get things like Crown Plaza where 10 young men building. That's how you get the mutual life building them, the workers banking them and all of them things. So when them do that now and the people them go for them money, them borrow money from BOJ, BOJ are the lender of last resort, just like how the Fed are the lender of last resort. The BOJ are the lender of last, if you hit the point, last resort. So, and the same thing them do. So one thing that you understand, same thing when Isaac Clarke talk about now, about the lack of integrity of external auditors and the accountants and them things, are the same thing Omar Davis them to talk about. So when them go for BOJ to borrow money, And Omar and Latimer there say, yo, show away the balance sheet and them to them. Come up with all kind of fictitious balance sheet, just like where the SSL come up with already. You follow me? So by the time the people them start, you know, and they was a run, them time the Bank of Jamaica lend Eagle 14.7 billion already. Them lend Century like 6.6 billion. Workers Bank 7.4 billion. You follow me? Because them use the people and money and pay for a big building and all them. It's like a competition who can build a bigger building. So after them do that, they end up bankrupt. That is how FinSAC come in now. FinSAC are the agency will take the bad debts from them, take the assets and try to sell back the assets to get back the money with them that borrow from Bank of Jamaica and taxpayer. You follow me? So Omar Davis found that in 1997, the first man who run it was Gladstone Bonnie, and then Patrick Hilton used to run NCB now. Them are the man who used to run FinSAC. So
yes.
FinSAC never caused the financial sector crisis. FinSAC are the agency that then set up to take off the bad debts and take the assets them with the banks them accumulate and sell back in order to get back taxpayers' money. By the time the FinSAC sell when to sell, taxpayers lose 140 billion. And all of the man them run where I live in Florida. Because them tie up the government, they have to tie them that this, tie them that. Yeah.
So them never get them run way because Paul Chen Young said the quote thing with him, me did have that and show it. 170 ohm him have, and then him start pass on some to you cross creek. This is like lightning strike same place more than like 100 times. These are the same you cross creek from Eagle.
So that is why. Yeah, so that is why even Nigel Clark can tell us, boy, he wants to know why this thing over 30 years and nobody can go to prison, and that's why something has to be different this time. The only reason that something will be different, we have to bring in outside parties. Small society, everybody know everybody after. So we have to bring in outside people and really get a good result.
Raleigh, I have two quick questions here. The fact that a major player of SSL was the number 2 man at Eagle, because I was at Eagle at the time. I used to work with the Eagle group. At the time, the number 2 man, Mr. Hugh Crascurry, or it is argued that he was the number 2 man there. Wasn't there no kind of hindrance for him to still be in this kind of business, the fact that he was fingered heavily in what happened at Eagle Group? Or it would be okay for him to?
That is why I need to look back and now is the fit and proper regulation.
Yes.
That's not what happened. Them to raise questions about fit and proper. Who sanctioned that fit and proper? That's why in a small society, everybody know everybody. Because them managed to not run the financial institution.
Absolutely. The next question, the next follow-up question to that, Raleigh. We know that the emphasis is on SSL at the moment. But from where you sit, do you think that the wider financial sector has been impacting so far, and while it may not be out there in a big way, but there is some amount of melting taking place quietly because a lot of people are now afraid to, put their money out there in institutions and so on, and people are basically withdrawal based on what we're hearing. How you respond to that?
Yeah, man. Well, the financial sector is under extreme pressure because prior to SSL, they were already under pressure the way they deal with people. The lower interest rates, the high levels of fees, the difficulty in moving the account from one place to another, the take it or leave it behavior. So they was already under pressure with that. Now with this thing now of thieving people money, they're under even more pressure. So what we see now is that every institution is now coming out in the public and say, this is how we do things, this is how we this is how we that, this is how we that. And BOJ applying the pressure and say, yo, all I want to have to publish in the financial statements now to have strengthen the internal audit process, carry out more and investigations and all of those things. So yes, the sector is under pressure and they have to do everything that is possible to rebuild confidence.
We have a caller I want to ask a question. Hold on a minute. Yes, caller, go ahead.
Right, can you hear me?
Yeah,
I
man.
just want to get your opinion on Mr. McFarlane's severance package, and shouldn't we see what the prior agreement he had with the ministry to figure out whether or not he's worth what they're going to give him? I'll hang up and listen to your response.
Okay. Well, his salary was $16 million per annum, and then give him 3 months pay. So he ended up with like about $4 million. Yeah.
Okay.
That was released today. They were transparent about that. That was released today.
Okay.
And that rally, that has nothing to do with the pension and all of that he will get, because that will be form a different package. That's just a severance pay.
Yeah, man.
Okay, tell me something though. I want the people to understand this. Because I see them did a push up a lady, right? When you're opening a firm like a brokers, right? You're registering a brokers. You're going to run a brokers, right? You're going to start this like Crosby. When you go to the bank, by the way, which bank them use?
Well, that remains unknown.
All right. The next thing again. All right. So when you go to the bank, them have to have all kind of dot and T's and letters and everything. And you have to have certain people sign to deal with those kind of money, right? Like sign the check. You have to have certain people who are going to sign to deal with people money, to deal with those accounts, right? Okay. So how it is possible for this lady that them pushing out says she moved like $3 billion, and the bank it not raised nothing at the bank or something like that? Oh, that would be possible.
Well, that is why I tell you, so the investigation, I forgot to that too, in terms of the collusion. So it's not she alone, that's how she says she alone couldn't do all of that. She need the help of other people. Take, for example, in a properly running brokerage house, like my brokerage house, if I give an order to my broker, somebody else higher than him will call me back and say, did you give him that instruction? And if I say yes, then I have to write to them and put it in writing that I gave him that instruction. And then have to answer security questions. That is how a proper running brokerage house with control operate. There was no control.
Or you turn up in person.
Okay, so tell
Or
me
you
something.
turn up in person.
All right, so may I ask him something? Tell me something. So you are the person who write check and send go change it?
No, you can't do that. In a properly running brokerage house, that does that. You can't do that.
And the bank supposed to have who sign on the check. Them have more than one person sign on a check, right? It will not be one person sign on a check. Maybe two or three, right?
No. Right. So that is why there has to be collusion. Yeah.
Okay.
In my brokerage house, my financial advisor can't take up no beer and sell it for the So there was no controls in the place, and that is what FSC flagged them for. The lack of controls in the place. It's free for all.
Okay. Me could take this caller from me could take the next answer from another caller. Hold on. Yes, caller. Hello.
Hello. Yes, are you hearing me?
Yes, man, you're when you're clear.
Okay, Wayne. Okay, my question is to Ross. Very good discussion, Wayne. I have to commend you on this program because I live in New York and I'm learning so much, and going back, my mind goes back to FinSec and all of that because I was in Jamaica then. But my question is to Ralston. Is there any way to retroactively, since Hugh Crosskey was a part of the Crown group with the late Paul Chen-Young, is there any way now to go back and to retroactively retrieve some of the property that Paul Chen-Young had given over? Because clearly he was part of a problem that was never addressed then. And so he was allowed to get involved in this system. So he never learned his lesson then. So how can that be retroactively done? Or can it be done? And if not, what then can be done now to hold him finally accountable?
Well, I mean, it can't be done in relation to that problem because that's years ago, what they call the statute of limitation. So they wouldn't be able to deal with that in relation to that. But they can certainly deal with it in relation to the current problem because what they have to do, because as the Prime Minister rightly said, he had no other alternative. You can't come to taxpayers for any money to do that. We did that already after the financial sector crisis, 140 billion. So what they'll have to do is to track down the assets, just as Minister Clark said, of these people in order to make restitution to the investors who lost their money.
Okay. Ratty?
Yes. Ralston, let's say for the purpose of this question that I'm the investigator, right? I'm the FBI investigator. And we know you're the expert, right? So now I'm sitting there and let's say you're a source of mine. And the question I'm asking you is, point me in the right direction. Where do I go? Who's the linchpin? Where is the key? What's the key piece of information? What's the key person that I need to talk to get to the bottom of this?
So you need to talk to all of the top man them at SSL. And you need to talk to all of the top man them in the government. And you need to talk to all of the people who run the FSC during that particular period of time. And key, as Wayne said, you need to talk to the bankers them at SSL.
Okay, here's a follow-up question. We do all of that. And then I produce a report, an investigative report. And you just said that you need outside help, you need international help because it's a small group of people in Jamaica and nothing's going to be done. No,
everyone got to see at school, everybody know everybody.
Right. So the FBI now it's done with its investigation. It has a report. The report doesn't show that there's any US violation, right? So now the report is handed over to the authorities in Jamaica. Based on what you're telling me, am I supposed to take it that nothing is going to be done now in Jamaica?
But I don't think objectively the thing will show that there is no US violation because the people, as they said in their ad, is that they trade mostly in US dollars. So if you are a US dollar, then not. But there's a problem. Non-disclosure. So that it will be a problem with US authorities. They're trading and dealing in US currency that they're not asking the people where they get the money from.
Okay. Well, let me throw this out to you. And this happens. It happens not frequently, but it occurs with some regularity where you have a case and you take it to the U.S. Attorney's office, and they reject it. They just said, no, we're not going to prosecute this case. So now we turn it over to the Jamaican authorities. There's a violation, but for whatever reason, they just said, look, we're stretched. We have too many cases going on, blah, 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 blah. And I've seen that happen. No, they said, okay, we're going to turn it over to the Jamaican authorities and let them prosecute their violation. What do you expect to happen? And what the reason I'm asking the question is I'm trying to give people a reasonable appreciation of what could happen when all is said and done. And based on what you're telling me,
I believe if it is left to the Jamaican authorities, not much is going to happen.
We could take a next call. We could take a next call.
But I believe the point that you are dealing with US currency and you're not asking the source of fund, anti-money laundering and terrorism financing, I believe that chips in.
Okay, we could take a next call. Caller? Yes, caller.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Lonesome, and good evening to your panel, and also Ralston Hyman Ja. Good evening, all. I've been listening to this discussion, and it seemed to me that you cross-script is a very, very powerful man. Now, Mr. Rattigan was trying to tie up, and Mr. Lonesome to a lesser extent, the time when the Prime Minister invested his money and the time when he took it out. And I don't necessarily want to speculate, but I see once upon a time a document was placed on this very program that Mr. Krosky is a part of a board that the cabinet signed for. Now, what I would like, if you know Ralston or anybody could confirm, whether Mr. Krosky is a person that fund campaign for the jail. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out, Raleigh. I don't know if you know, if you can confirm if he's a part of the man who fund the JLP campaign.
All right.
Well, that's
And the fact that I just one more question. The fact that he's on certain boards that the cabinet appoint, if that could be if there is any correlation with the fact that the prime minister may have closed his account in a timely manner, based on what we are seeing as a public now. So well, the most I can say.
All right, make him the answer. Make him the answer this. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
The most I can say is that is a speculation that is widespread on the street, and nobody has refuted it.
Yes, not only that. I show the paper because them know them appoint him on board, and in 2021 to September 2021, right? It's there. The paper.
Yeah, not about the board thing. Those are facts, but about whether he's a major financier. That is a speculation that is widespread on the street, and nobody has refuted it.
Yes. And then we see, but the lady of FSC, that one from Stuart there, we see her campaigning. We see that lady with Miss Balls, Mrs. Balls, and campaigning. That's why you see, that's why we want to know why this thing never shut down. So it shows you a clear breach of everything. Yes.
Yeah,
we saw that.
She's definitely a big supporter. Yeah, man.
We saw that.
Raleigh, good. Raleigh, if I may, Wayne.
Yes.
The lady, Miss Panton, although we gather that she have given a sworn affidavit, we have not seen any arrests made against her. I know the answer to the question I'm asking Raleigh, but for the purpose of our listeners and our viewers, what would defer the Jamaican police certainly to have preferred any charge against her at this time or even, earlier, once that affidavit was out?
Well, speaking at the FID, Financial Investigation Division Conference recently, the DPP, Paula Llewellyn, says that the FID and the police must be meticulous in relation to the investigations so that she can get a conviction. So the argument is that they are taking their time and becoming very meticulous because they want to make an example this time.
But you can't move off of this because remember, if it's a web, a spider web, right, Conrad?
Mm-hmm. Just to close the circle of the question, Wayne, quickly. Yes. Raleigh, do you believe she may be singing like a canary at this time? Or mom is the word?
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
But if you want to sing,
the PP said cover all the bases. Yeah.
But hear this now. If you want to sing like Celine Dion, great singer, you just move her from Jamaica. That our blood pressure are up there and everything, and she knows she's safe. Then you hear some real things. You understand? I'm serious. Yes.
Maybe they're planning to do that, or maybe they have done that already. We don't know.
Because if you move her from Jamaica and make she sing, now you hear her, she sing like one of these people. Yeah, man. Yeah. Whitney Houston. Yes.
The late Whitney Houston.
Of course, the late great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyone more any more question from the audience? You can call now, you can call. Yeah. Eyes on the file. You can call now, who write it. You can call and ask a question.
No.
Yeah. Go to.
I'd like to focus, Ralston, on the Minister of Finance's interview with Nationwide Radio last week. I think it was midweek last week. Did you watch that interview with Cliff Hughes?
No, what he said? No, I never saw it.
Okay, he said a lot of things, and I want to run some of them by you. And I want to offer my opinion on the first one. First one, he said that, yes, the Financial Investigative Division and the fraud unit, that they were the ones who reached out to the FBI. The gentleman who heads the Financial Investigative Division, former high-ranking JCF member, I can tell you that he's trusted by the FBI. So it wouldn't surprise me that the group reached out, and I suppose that he probably did. But here's the interesting part. The minister also said that an international partner, that they were looking for a forensics company, a private forensics company, and an international partner recommended a forensics company to them. He wouldn't talk about the company, the location, and all of that stuff, because he said they were looking at the contract, and once it's signed, then there would be a public announcement. No, it struck me as being strange, because the FBI they conduct investigation at a very sensitive level, and I just don't see them working with a private company. You know, it's forensics. I mean, that's their bread and butter. I don't see them working alongside and sharing information. I mean, I just don't know how that one is going to pan out. So I just want to get your opinion on that, if you have an opinion anyway on that, and then I have a second question.
Well, that is why we need to hear more from the minister in relation to these things. How is it that the work is going to be done? Yeah, so we need to hear a lot more about that from him.
Okay.
And just a second there, Ratty, you know, because I like to buttress these things. Remember now that this question that coming through, and Ratty is basically there, maybe playing the devil's advocate and put it out there. We must remember at all time that we have a man who would have been there, done that, a former senior FBI agent. And you're actually saying to the listening audience and the viewers, Ratty, that based on your experience, that this is how the thing works.
Exactly. Yeah.
Experience.
Yeah. Exactly.
Experience, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Indeed. Yeah. It would be. We would be very reluctant to get involved with a private company doing for the same thing that we can do.
To explain that, yeah.
Right, and then I mean, like you said, how would you partition that work? I mean, because we're not in the habit of sharing stuff with people, and we don't even know if these people are cleared for that information. So that's one thing. The second thing I have is this: the minister, when challenged by Cliff Hughes as to whether or not he received the April 3rd, 2020 letter and what should have been done about it, he mentioned that under the law, the minister is required to review assessments provided by FSC within 30 days after the assessments are done. And he said this would require him, based on the number of assessments that they have to do every year, this would require him to review approximately 500. And he said, no, you know, your listeners, I mean, they could understand that there's no way a minister is going to sit down and go over 500. No, here's one of the things, and I have to preface it with this. Whenever I'm sent someplace, whenever I was dispatched someplace in the FBI, one of the first things I did, I always ask for an inspection. I always ask headquarters to come in and say, look, tell me, what do I have here? Because the person is gone, or sometimes I'd overlap with the person for a couple of days, but the person is getting ready to leave. So I said, tell me, what do I have here? What are the deficiencies? What are the great things about this office? What do I need to do? So I'm kind of assuming that the minister, given the fact that he's regarded as a financial genius and a man who cares about fiscal responsibility and administrative things, that this is one of the things he would do. What I took away from his statement is that he basically admitted that he violated the law because he did not do what he was supposed to do. No, he mentioned it. Are you aware of such a law that requires the minister to review assessments done by FSC within 30 days or so?
Yeah, man, but the minister as a financial secretary, as a whole lot of senior officers, senior economists, the minister of finance has a big staff.
Okay.
The minister does not necessarily have to review everything himself.
Well, he said based on the law that he's the one responsible for doing, and so he told Cliff Hughes that they're trying to change it.
That's gonna be good.
Yeah, because remember, when the law says the minister, it doesn't necessarily mean that the minister himself. The minister has a staff who are competent, who are supposed to be very competent, and people that he trusts. So, I mean, other people can review some of the things and then report to it, and they discuss it.
Well, here's what he said.
Have to do everything himself.
Well, here's what he said. He said under the law, he's responsible for reviewing that, and he said no, they're gonna try and get a bill passed in Parliament that will delegate the review of these assessments to somebody else, so that he doesn't get bogged down with 500. So he gave the impression that, look, I have a lot of them on my desk. I have 500 of them. So why would I single out SSL, and why would I do this? It sounds to me like he was creating an excuse for not addressing the issue.
That's what he was doing. That's nonsense. That's nonsense.
You know what? That was a even on the radio, that was a PR stunt.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
That is the
minister
PR.
Doesn't. The minister is responsible for the budget. The minister doesn't prepare the budget himself.
Absolutely.
That's rubbish.
So based on this law, because I'm not familiar with it, I have to go back and look it up. But based on this law, is the ministry then legally liable for not reviewing these things and having having investors suffer losses as a result of the failure to review?
Well, if you notice that Mr. Bolt's lawyer, they say they sued the FSC for dereliction of duty. So if these things stand, then that is where the taxpayers may have to pay some money. Because the authorities were negligent in dealing with the problem at SSL.
Can I?
Yes, yes.
Raleigh, whenever investigations are being carried out, one of the words that we always hear come up is recuse. Ask for us to recuse themselves from the investigation and so on. Based on what you identify, what you said earlier, you believe that the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister should recuse themselves? And what would that recusing means?
Well, I mean, once you're conducting an investigation, they should have nothing to do with the investigation.
Repeat, Raleigh?
The people who are conducting investigation should talk to them.
But if they're to recuse themselves from the investigation, if they're to recuse themselves from the investigation, which means that, listen, your office should be left unfettered and so on, wouldn't this demand now that the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance will have to resign to do that?
No, not necessarily. They'd have to cooperate with the investigator.
But cooperating and recusing is one and the same? Recusing?
Just like how President Biden has to answer questions about the documents and all of those things, and he says he's cooperating. They'll be required to do the same thing.
Okay. All right.
But one thing though, Conrad and Ralston, in Jamaica, the Prime Minister put in him own commissioner and keep on him own DPP, and behind closed door them don't answer questions, them just sit down and laugh and drink. Because Jamaica too corrupted, and we need to clean, and we in the diaspora need to hold them accountable. Because if them depend on us.
That is why I'm saying that if external people like you and external agencies are not involved, we are not going to get to the bottom of this thing. And you people have a whole lot of power based on the money that you send back to Jamaica. So you must demand certain things because they can't afford to lose their confidence. You have the cards,
That is it, and we are using it. We're going to use it, and we are using it. Yes, man.
Yeah. You have to use the $3 billion card.
That is it. Because without this, not even the PSOJ would survive through this. If we just sit back and don't say no remittance, nothing. Just cut it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We need to do that. Yeah. And you have a lot of my friends, coming, a matter of fact, them planning to take the money. So we know that, all right, so next thing we want to ask, that means Jamaica economy is a paper economy. Because we not really produce nothing. Right? It's a paper economy, right?
Yeah, man. What we do is push paper and buy and sell. So we buy $2.5 billion worth of oil every year. Almost $1.5 billion in food and consumer goods. Almost $2 billion in raw material and spare parts and all of those things. For the first 9 months, we buy about $400 million in capital goods and $300 million in cars. Yeah. 9 months, we import 5.829 billion and export only 1.2 billion. I tell you, we're not producing enough.
So tell me, that means with a paper economy, we can't sink any time, and the money going to devalue, and people suffer more, right? And next thing again, the budget, we see it nearly reach $1 trillion now, right? How much we're paying in debt now and servicing the debt out of that budget?
$136 billion are the interest costs, and another 220 billion is principal repayment. So
we're going 300 and something billion. Nearly 400 billion.
400 billion are debt service charges.
All right, so the next 600 or 500 billion left to do everything else.
Yeah, and then, public sector
and then everything, and then out of that now, you hear that government and politician and everything we have nearly 200 billion out of that. That's why Jamaica now move. It's stuck. Yeah, because them put it out, But 1 to 200 billion corruption money got gone. You understand? Through corruption, that money gone.
Corruption at almost 200 billion.
200 billion. Yeah. So out of that, and the next 200 billion. So what we have left to run the country. That's why people are suffering so.
That's why people are suffering so, man, and things are hard, man.
Raleigh, good point there, Wayne. Raleigh, today I had the president of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mrs. Lasagna Harrison. And, they are at a point, as you know, that of their almost 600 delegates at their special conference on Friday, only 36 voted to accept the government offer. Now, Raleigh, with the surplus that the government talk about, the windfall of taxes and so on, and, certainly the human capital in the country is very, very important, and the education sector plays a very, very pivotal part to that. Do you think that the government, through the minister, the main negotiator, Clark, is giving the teachers a fair shake based on what is available?
No, we need more money to be spent on education and healthcare. Education and healthcare need more money. You now get rid of crime unless you spend more money on education and infrastructure and everything. So yeah.
So you see,
underspend on those things. Yeah.
So you see, you're talking my language. We preach this to our people every day, because you understand? Yes, man. And next thing though, we don't like the government to do. I could just ask this question. We see the government carrying a lot of foreign workers in the country. Do you think it would be better and wise if the government started something like even Cayman? You make sure you try and train up our people, right? And put them to work instead of carrying these foreign workers into the country, taking our jobs. It's non-productive, right?
That's a must, man. You hear me? Them say the unemployment rate is 6.6%. But we have 750,000 persons outside of the labor force. About 400,000 of them should be inside the labor force. They are outside the labor force for a number of reasons. Some of them not properly trained. Some months them now work for the minimum wage. Some months them now work under the oppressive contract system. The Hard Trust falls under the office of the Prime Minister. Hard Trust collect $14 billion every year. So Hard Trust supposed to have a more aggressive training program in conjunction with the private sector. That is how you cut off the reserve army of criminals. So we need to spend more on education and training, cut out the foolish exploitative contract working system, rather than bringing people from overseas to replace those people. Because once you do that, you have to have more crime, you have to have more poverty. So we need to train the people and spend more money on education and training, science and technology, research and development. Yeah.
So that means the government do this on purpose, keeping the poorer class of people, or these people, keeping them down. Yeah? Carrying in other people. That means them don't want crime go down or anything. Them know what them doing. It's designed.
It can't work. It cannot work.
Good. All right. Simmer. Yes, man. Yes, man.
Wayne, I don't know if Ralston was on the thread when we were just aiming. And, in that we hear that, and he just allude to it. We hear about the low unemployment figure. But at this point, when we talk about low unemployment, when we had a higher number, there were more persons that were in the workforce. And Raleigh, I would want you to posit a view here. What happened to those persons? What are they doing? Because indeed, those persons that are out of the workforce, they are working age Jamaica, able-bodied men and women and so on. Is it that people are just saying, this boy, I mean, I got to work for the nine grand a week, which is about 60
One say now work for the minimum wage, and you have a next set of people who say them now work under the oppressive contract working system. So them prefer to juggle something for themselves. All them people that are on the street are juggle something for themselves. Or some man a chop.
And some man prefer go chop and take him chance.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
So to turn the economy around, the government need to stop import these people, especially from China, because one time over 200,000 now it reach, because them just come in like crazy and get everything, and them don't put back. Them don't put back. You understand?
No, man, all of them money have to leave the country and put the currency under pressure. So
and then buy a lot of money on black market, you know that, right?
You them cut out the foolish contract and all of them to that, because the people them feel like them are under slavery still.
So it's a design. If the government not change up these things, then you know grow Jamaica.
Them not have a solve crime and the people get poorer and poorer, more frustrated.
So we
Raleigh.
need around. Okay.
Yeah, man.
All right, on the last, I could wrap up because something. This is the time I run out now. So
yeah, quickly, just my last question, Wayne. Raleigh, we talk about agriculture sector. You know, one of the linchpin that the Jamaican economy could move on. And we talk about when we talk about agriculture, we talk about as non-traditional sector and so on. We saw where the Portia Sim-Similar-led government, they were big on promoting the agri-parks and so on. And in my opinion, we see where that certainly the emphasis not on that anymore. Mr. Shaw, when he was Minister of Agriculture and Fishery, he talked about the castor bean, that he was going to put acreage of castor bean in place. I remember interview Michael Stern, who was the chairman of RADA. No, Raleigh, just speak to our people what kind of industry, new industry, we could create out of, say, the castor bean, and share with us if there's a demand for that.
Yeah, man, we know what I'm telling you. Everybody will tell you that they about, and people like we know that the international demand for Jamaica's product from castor bean will right down to all of the agricultural in them that we can produce. But the supply is not there. So let me give you the stat. We imported 1.4 billion in food and consumer goods for the first 9 months. You know what, you export 68 million.
You hear that?
Now I use agricultural land and build house. Notice them add 89 billion to the budget and then cut the allocation to agriculture. What you spend your money on tells you what you give priority. So then you see it as a priority.
Yeah.
Public relation.
Yeah, a couple of comments. One is that, you know, you talk about the foreign workers, and you have the influx of Chinese in Jamaica. And that's because of the relationship that government has had with the Chinese government for years. And so they come in and they build buildings and they build roads or whatever. And a lot of them, they don't leave. And I'm being told, at least when I worked in Africa, what I noticed was that a lot of the Chinese workers, they weren't the best of the best. In fact, some of them were prisoners that they're just trying to get rid of. And so they released them on this work program. So we have to examine that. But here's the question I really want to ask you. At the JLP conference last year, the Prime Minister made an impassionate speech about the mandates of the JLP. And he said one of them was to move poor people to the middle class. He did not explain what this plan was. The question to you is, do you know of such a plan? And if you don't, what's your suggestion of moving? given the present economic circumstance, to move poor people, the 60 US dollars per week people, move them to the middle class?
Well, I don't know of such a plan, and what we know happening on the ground is that the middle class is becoming poor and the poor is becoming destitute. That's the reality of Jamaica right now. Middle class get poor and the poor get destitute. Yeah? So how we reverse that? We have to invest more in education and training because that's the thing that is going to make you socially mobile, right? We have to invest more in science and technology, research and development. We have to invest more in infrastructure. We have to cut the corruption and stop waste so much money on corruption. You with me? We have to change the way how the financial sector operates in Jamaica. Yeah. So again, we need to see how this new regulatory environment gonna work. All those things. So we need to see the example being set for above. Cut the corruption, spend more on education and training, more on social intervention, more on infrastructure, reduce the amount of money that you accumulate to service the debt because you accumulate money to service the debt faster than how you need to pay down the debt. For example, for the period April to November of the fiscal year, the primary surplus, the amount of money which is set aside to service the debt, was 114 billion. Why we only need 39.2 billion? More of that money can go into education and infrastructure, pay the teachers them well, pay the nurses them well, improve the health sector, improve the education sector. That is how you move the people from poverty. Cut out this foolishness, the lower minimum wage. The thing you talk again about Chinese contractors. Chinese contractors come, they're going to pay GIC rate, they're going to pay overtime, double time, they're going to pay for holiday. All those things they have to make the labor laws of the country.
Me could take a one card. Okay? Yes, Carl.
Yes, Mr. Hyman. Good night to the panel and the
Yes, sir.
listeners. Yes, sir. My concern is relating to the Minister of National Security and its budget. How would you rationalize the 72% that has been allocated to the JDF, broken down to the 40% or 2.7 billion allocated to the JDF for its coastal and surveillance equipment, and then 32% to the cybersecurity projects that is occurring? Seeing that we have such a issue with our crime being underground, drugs, guns, and murder, and killings and shooting.
Well, and that is why we're saying that if you spend more money on education, more money on things like social intervention, then you wouldn't be needed to be spending all of that big money. One thing that people are saying, and that is something that is right on the street, is that we have this kind of economic situation, a kind of Brazilian outfit where the emphasis is on the military to suppress the people rather than to uplift the people. And that is why the strategy failed. So the man said, we spend 40 billion on crime, which is bigger than the previous administration that spent. The previous administration was on a tight IMF regime. So they never have that kind of money. But the results in crime at that time was better than the results we are getting now. You with me? So this whole thing, the people have said, boy, the money are overemphasized for the military. Everything is a military man around this. Even the man who are FSC is a military man, you know. Yeah, so the man says like it's a dictatorship we build, like Latin America, like how Brazil and the place they run. You with me? So the people kind of scared about that. This development will appear army man and control things, you know. Yep. It's not a good approach.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me just say one quick thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't say hello to my sister. She's not doing well, Marcia. So take care of yourself. Okay. Big up to all of my supporters them over Ralston. Kofi, big up yourself. Stay in school, study hard. Ralston, you said that the middle class was constricting and they're becoming poor, and the poor is becoming destitute. You didn't talk about the rich people. Is there a widening gap between the rich and the rest of them, or is the rich becoming middle class?
Come on, man. Jamaica was measured by the Gini coefficient, man. Jamaica, the 1% control everything. So once you have to be in a banking or tourism or shopping or high-level politics to survive in Jamaica. Yeah, man. The gap between the rich and the middle class I get wider and wider. And
right, all right, that's it.
So we call them now oligarchs, like in Russia. Oligarchs, you know, them super rich, you know, oligarchs. You understand?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
And ironically, Wayne and Ralston and Ratty, you know, and I know you guys are aware, but just to our viewers and so on, it's the same thing in Haiti. Same thing in Haiti. You have that oligarch, at 1% that live in filthy rich, while the masses suffer.
Yes.
And they use the army to suppress the people. At the same style I get in Jamaica.
That's why I tell them now, Ralston, that the Prime Minister come out and do a deflection the other day when him say we're going to restore democracy in Haiti and send soldier and police. Our soldier and police tell you the truth, them need some lamp oil. No disrespect. You can't send them over there, so when you can't find 150 man over here. So, and by the way, 8 out of 10 man over there so have gone. And they're more armed than the police and soldier over there, because remember them, you get some embargo, some things with them where US drop and the army over there because them too corrupted. But the man them get gun from black market. So them have guns and ammunition for back it. Right? So when the government, what we just say, the government did say, it don't make no sense whatsoever. If him want to go over there, him carry him commissioner with him Sir Googs and him carry him over there. That's okay with us. Yes, man. Let
me ask you a question. Let me just touch on that a little bit.
Yes.
You know, we don't even have enough policemen in Jamaica to deal with the crime in Jamaica. They're supposed to be somewhere around 14 to 15,000, and they have about 12,000, right? So we don't have enough. And then you're going, and the morale is low, they're not being paid well, all of that. And then you're going shitting over there. No, there's such a group. There's a group called CARICOM, right? Which is a regional group. So why is it the Prime Minister is not appealing to CARICOM and say, look, let's help our neighbors collectively? Why is it him have to jump up now and say, well, we're putting people on high alert that we're going to send them over there. And then look, the US government hasn't made a commitment. The Canadian government was talked to about this. They didn't make a commitment. The French government, French, who at one time controlled Haiti, nothing from them. The most we have heard from a few Latin American states, and what they've said, they said, we will send a small team there to do an assessment. Jamaica not do an assessment. Jamaica said we have sent people.
I can tell you something, Ratty. You when you do assessment, remember you forgot the unarmed too. You can't go there. We're not gonna show because it's 150 or 100 gang. I mean, I said heavily armed.
Right.
You don't speak the language.
Right.
You have a language barrier, so you couldn't go see a man. And remember, the police and soldiers run from them. A matter of fact, them have a big old long barrier. Border with Dominican Republic.
Yes.
And them now go over there got credit because and them much afraid say, hey, this matter come over in our country because that's a border, land border.
Right.
Who's we know when they're about 100 miles away by sea. Figure out about we are gonna quell when we can't even quell one in Jamaica.
We don't understand the language. We don't understand the language. We don't understand the language. We don't understand.
Yeah. And the conditions in Jamaica are similar to Haiti.
Okay.
But here's the thing. We don't understand the language. We don't understand the culture. We don't know the terrain.
No.
And we are going to go fight. We are going to go do. First of all, what are we going there to do alone? What are we going there to do?
Just lie down and die. Just go there to die.
So Bill Howe.
Right. And in the meantime, who's going to man the Zozos and the states of emergency? Who going to do that?
Because our officers are already burnt out because of the resources of the state of emergency. Everyone has suffered from burnout.
Yeah. And I think the government has finally realized that the Zozo and the states of emergency, that they're useful. I mean, useless. And I'll tell you why. Because they realize now that they're made statements that the murder rate has gone down, and we don't have no state of emergency.
But no, you can't remember January just done on them thing. Them do it last year and then the man have all kind of murder on them hand. So we don't follow Googs, Sir Googs.
We in Raleigh and Ratty, I want to just put this question here. I want to be blunt. Raleigh, based on all the ills, we're here for what? Almost 2 hours?
Yes.
Almost 2 hours. And, you know, we point out, and we're not making up stuff. We're looking at the reality in Jamaica. Based on everything, Raleigh, you believe the government buck, and it is time for them to go to the Jamaican people and say we're seeking a fresh mandate, so the Jamaican people make a decision as to whether or not they want this present administration to continue or they want to try something fresh? What's your thinking on that?
Well, it is clear that they have run out of ideas, but one of the dominant thing in Jamaica on the street right now is that the people in the state now, they must say, yo, no better than that. So they not just go through, they not really care. Yeah, because the people don't believe that the opposition is forceful enough or present a substantial case enough. So the people just say, yo, we're there for our own, no better than that. And that is one of the reasons that they say all of this lawlessness. Every man does barely try to survive because right now, the opposition now step up to the plate, so we just have to do what we have to survive. That's the way to make it right.
So we are telling me now.
Hold on, please. So stick up here.
This I got turning at 80 then. Because if you say the man them just say we are got through, that mean we are have a civil unrest. Because of that you just said why you know.
But wait.
That's disorderly because the people are there. We don't get no leadership from the administration and we don't see no from the opposition either. So we don't do our thing.
Raleigh and Wayne and Raleigh, what are you picking up? Is it that the people are saying that no better in terms of competence on the opposition, or they are saying that listen, the opposition not forceful enough? What are you picking up? Is it that they're saying listen?
They put all of that together and say, yo, because them see the forceful as part of the competence. They must say, yeah, we don't have a competent competition because you're not hitting the bases that you're supposed to hit. You're not exploiting the weaknesses in the government. You're always slow to start or to comment on anything. So the people must say, yo, we're there for our own. We're better than that.
So when does tell us him say, you know, no care about them take long for even answer and just slow it. So people have to be them own opposition. So if them not hear from the opposition, well, it might have turned out in a civil thing, civil unrest.
But this is sad comment, Raleigh, because even today, for example, where you have the people taking the street, and you know you hear persons say, listen, you know, the people that must come off and wait until the government to do something and so on. Why the people are exercising? Because we know that in Jamaica, the only way that government moves is when you have pushback. And the people really need an opposition to be out there with them, standing by their side, putting things forward, and not getting that. That's and it is sad.
That's why I'm saying them on their own, no better than that. Yeah, that is what people are saying.
It is sad, man.
We're in a very bad state.
So that means we can look at any time for 82. And when we said 1982, you know, 81 over there, so 82. Number 2, got Jamaica and 80 neck and neck right now. So anything you go on in Jamaica right now.
Disorder. Nobody don't respect the law. Man does do anything what to survive. Lawlessness because there's no leadership at top and there's not no leadership from the other side. So I'm trying to say we just do what happens to survive.
All right.
Raleigh, what role do you think the Brogard syndrome play in all of this, what we are saying right now?
Well, I mean, the syndrome is manifested in the kind of lawlessness that we see. So we just keep enough party and man, just do what them like and let's go to.
Roman boom, I do it. Okay.
Yeah, Roman boom, no respect for morality. We just go through, yeah, have a good time, party, bike, make enough noise, and we just go through. We got all law and order and decency.
Right.
Ratty drink Roman boom. Ratty drink Roman boom.
Everybody, we invite you back, you know, because you know we have to hold it this time. We see we are running out of some time here and them thing.
Yeah,
so yes, man, enough respect, my brother. Yeah, my brothers.
All right, blessings.
My brothers.
Yeah, blessings.
All right, my brother, respect. All right, sir.
All right, brother, we talk. Come on, bless up.
Yeah, can I, Ratty?
Yeah, man, yeah.
But later,
yeah, man.
Bless up. Always a pleasure. Ratty.
Yeah.
Bless up. Cool.
All right, my
Respect.
brethren. We can't do it. All right,
Let me just
easy.
remind the people them say this will come up in. I remember, you know, where the car seat there. Simple the best. And then remember we have the run things first. But yeah, we are your power run things first, you know, and the whole of we, you know. So remember that, Conrad. We want to see you too, you know. You understand? So remember, simple the best. It did it. Yeah? Yeah, man. This 11th of next month, you know. Yeah, man. So you know. So just knock my man, man. The ticket, everything, you know, say, you know, the thing up and ready. So we're ready.
All right, brother.
Later, brother.
God bless.
Yeah.
All right.
Bless up.